And so today we'll start with our regular practice, sitting practice. Our mindfulness practice is always there to allow us to center in ourselves, and so we can see what is our experience moment to moment. And this experience is what informs our life. So, yeah, so we can continue a little bit by just maybe settling into the breath. And just for a moment, noticing what's here for you. Maybe I can invite you to even take a deeper than normal breath. And to just notice that you are breathing. This body is breathing. Yeah. And just knowing that you don't have to be anyone today. Seeing if you can notice your face. Becoming aware of the muscles in your face, of any tension that might be here. And again, there's nothing that you need to change, nothing that you need to do. So maybe just taking in a deeper than normal breath again and letting go of any need to have your experience be anything than the way it is right now. As Rumi would say, just pulling out the welcome mat, greeting your guest with a smile, welcoming them. And by guest, he means all that's part of your experience right now, the thoughts, the emotions that might be present, any sensations in the body lingering from the moment before, or perhaps anticipation to the next moment or the future. And just seeing if you can just be here. Fully arriving. With the willingness to be curious. And so perhaps starting by just noticing where your feet are right now. Are they touching the ground? Is there any area of the feet that might be in contact with the ground right now? Or the cushion, the surface holding you? Now becoming aware of the rest of the body. And just allowing it to really gently sink into the surface that's holding you. Safely, fully supported by the earth, cradling you in this moment. And as you check in with your body, maybe you're noticing that it needs to adjust in some ways. Noticing your posture. Seeing if it needs to adjust right now in any way. So allow this body to just really gently let go of anything that might be holding on to as an invitation, but not a demand, at its own pace, gently and kindly, meeting it exactly where it is. And just this invitation to soften. Allowing it to settle into the surface, holding you, just like if it was at the beach, lying on the sand, leaving an imprint. Perhaps at that moment, recognizing that the sand can hold it. Just for a moment, paying attention to the surface holding you and the contact the body makes with it. checking in with your breath and noticing if the breath is flowing normally. And as you become aware of your breathing, just becoming aware of whether it's deep breaths that are happening or shallow breaths. Just noticing if there's any judgment that comes with it. If you notice judgment, just allowing it to pass. It's just a thought. Noticing if the breath is fast or slow. And perhaps you're aware of the preference that the mind might have about what's best or what's better, how things should be. How you're supposed to be, quotes on suppose, breathing in this moment, sitting in this moment, meditating in this moment. And if that's happening, just noticing that, allowing it to drift into the background. Coming right here to settle in this body, safely sinking into the surface holding. You're seeing sleepiness or boredom or the mind telling stories, a lot of thoughts coming in. Just acknowledging that that's your experience in this moment, and then escorting your attention, really kindly just escorting your attention back to this body, this breath, this moment. You should become more and more aware of this moment, more and more aware of this experience. Just acknowledging the courage that it takes for you to be here, and how much of this moment you already trust. That you might notice some thoughts, some sensations, some feelings of the bias of the mind. Always got the tendency to look for things that are unhelpful. And it serves a purpose, of course. Just noticing what it's like in this moment. As you notice all the things that you might be trusting right now. Focusing your attention in this body and noticing, what is it like to trust like this? How does the body feel when you're trusting the moment, when you're trusting in yourself? Perhaps you're noticing that there might be parts in your body that are not letting go, that are still holding on with the just in case situations, the what ifs. Just noticing where these parts might be in your body, parts where you might hold tension, tightness that are coming in right now. Just noticing them, giving them that attention that is needed. And perhaps saying, thank you, I got it now, got this. Now I invite you to just notice and acknowledge the courage that it takes to look at these parts that are vulnerable, these parts in the body that hold the tightness, the tension. to be with them. As you settle here in the body, just noticing how familiar these tensions, these tightness are. And acknowledge their role and not acknowledging their job without really trying to make them go away, without pushing them away for now. But as you say, I got this, just inviting them to soften. You got this. Trusting in yourself. And noticing your own strength to be here to do this work. It takes real courage, real strength. So recognizing this power in you. Kalil Ghibram wrote a poem said, "Becoming the ocean." So I invite you to just bring your attention now to this different moment in some way. Taking your attention to hearing and hearing these words that are coming out. And just noticing how the body feels as you hear these words. Becoming the ocean. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. It looks back at the path that it has traveled from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forest and villages. And in front of it, he sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there's no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it is not about disappearing into the ocean. It's about becoming the ocean. So just noticing how this settles in your body. These words that have traveled all the way to your ears. So there's a quote by an unknown author, and he says that a storm was forming, and somebody said, "Be careful, storm is coming." And he says, and she turned around and said, "I am the storm." So as you sit here, and we're getting to the end of our practice, just sensing and within this power that lives within you. We can call it courage. This connection to this incredible being that you are. And as you sit here, also, you're here seeing this incredible being, listening to this incredible being. And so as we come to the end of this practice, just stepping into the body again and noticing what it needs right now. Does it need to adjust its posture? Need to tenderly move in any way? And then at your own pace, whenever it feels right for you, you can open your eyes. Come back to this moment. Hmm. And just noticing what it's like as you come back to the screen to open your eyes and see everybody that's here together, to be part of this loving, tender group that comes here. You know, John Kabat-Zinn likes to say that this is only the hardest work known to mankind. So maybe just taking a deeper than normal breath. And yeah, so we're still exploring trust and Today, I thought maybe we can talk a little bit also about how discernment plays into trust, right? That we can be very clear to really know that trusting oneself, it's got a lot to do with an inner power, to really knowing that you can be here with all the vulnerabilities that come up in the practice, that we can look at them, that we can open our hearts to them, and that we can take that out into the world. But that doesn't mean that we are gonna, no use our good judgment if something is not right for us, right? And so really noticing how discernment plays an incredible role here. And discernment is that capacity that we have to recognize when something is maybe not right for us. And it is always informed by the practice, right? We can talk about a gut feeling that is not driven by a conscious thought or emotion, but really something that is feeling. How many of you can tell me, just raise your hands, how many of you can say that you ever had this feeling that this thing was just not quite right? And then you went and did it anyway. And then, yes, I see many of you smiling. Yeah, me too. Happens all the time. And so this is when we're talking about discernment, that there is a power within us that stores all this information, that guides us. And that really, even more than that, that knows what is right for us, right? So I often find myself kind of doing something that might not be beneficial, to like maybe my body, whether it's like, I'm going to go for a walk, even though I'm not feeling too well, because I have to stick to the plan. And there's this gut feeling that's saying like, oh, you know what? Maybe you need to take a rest. Maybe you should pass on that walk for now, right? And I've done it. I've done it before, that I've gone on that walk and hurt myself. And so, this inner intuition that we have, that we know already what works for us, to trust that to guide us, to trust in ourselves, right? And I'm seeing some comments. Thank you for contributing. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, just settling with that and just noticing what comes for you. How does that really inform you? How do you connect to this wisdom within, which is what we're practicing constantly? To seeing all the layers that get on the way, all these layers that are there covering our true wisdom, right? So yeah, discernment. Yeah, and I'm just reading. Yeah, have to stick to the plan, isn't it? Gosh, yeah, those are powerful words for me too, Jill. Yeah. I notice my ground, and I notice this beautiful community, and I notice I need to get back to ceramic class soon. Oh, Steve. I don't see him, but yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I noticed my body asking for rest. Yeah, yeah. And what are you doing about that? That's what I'm wondering. What is it asking for? Is it lying down? Is it asking for lying down while doing the practice? Is it asking for being more comfortable? How are you doing that? Yeah. So yes, however, there is discernment by the way, gut intuition and a reaction from the gut. And the gut thought of as intuition. Yeah, thank you, Dante, for sharing. Yeah, so thank you for being here and for this practice. And yeah, I think